I'm technically retired now, but that technical retirement, I'm still under orders to go forward and tell the truth. On October the 12th, this lady right here planted me in front of a camera. You saw the video, and actually read a series of orders telling me to tell the truth about what I've seen. So I'm actually sanctioned to do so. But after that, I suppose, I hope to God, I can continue my research and go back with Lotus. I don't want to make this my life's calling to be telling the world about what I saw there. I'm going to do it. But that's not my thing. My thing is doing microscopy and doing biological research. I heard somebody fiddling on the door. So I kind of looked out, and the fiddling stopped. So I just started to move back toward the back, and then I heard a key enter the door. Key fully turned, and the door jiggled and opened up, and I'm getting ready to move, and three gentlemen walk in the doorway. One was clearly wearing what I now know to be a United States Navy uniform. Well, he asked me whether or not I wanted to basically see the world and operate above and beyond, and the whole recruiting line was given to me about how I could benefit humanity, how research would make me famous within the black operations community. And I'm hearing all this black operations. I mean, my eyes just kept getting wider and wider and wider. Why wouldn't they? I was, 23 at the time. Just turned 23. Project Aquarius was the project that I was ultimately the working group responsible for, and that project, the sub-project under which we worked, which was Aquarius R2, or the AQ-J-Rod program, was to eliminate, if possible, an extant neuropathy, which was a polyneuropathy in the J-Rod. And the polyneuropathy was associated with a heat loss characteristic, which had to do with the particular physiology of the J-Rod. They have in their outer skin duct glands which produce antifreeze proteins, which help actually coat them, and the polyneuropathy, the peripheral neuropathy portion of it, was actually denuding the ability of the J-Rod to maintain its own static body temperature. It's a homeotherm. The polyneuropathy had other horrible side effects. Pain was one of them. Edema was another. And the majority of, from what we understood from the J-Rods, the majority of deaths actually occurred from pulmonary edema. But that was promoted, moved along, if you will, exacerbated by the loss of heat. Yeah, their internal anatomy is very interesting. I'm talking about thoracic anatomy as well as abdominal anatomy, and I mentioned a little bit about the cranial capacity and how the certain sulci are actually moved up and out of the way at the back of the head to make room for this huge complex that almost wraps around their brain like an inner tube, which allows them the telepathic thought and the ability to entrain a normal human. But their thoracic anatomy is very interesting. Their cardiopulmonary system appears to be a single fused mass in the center of their chest. Now, I'm taking this information from the King Tut's, the training update tapes that we had available to us, because I never saw inside of the particular J-Rod in his chest or his abdomen when actually working with him. There was no surgery performed or anything like that, aside from the aspirative avulsions and then the subsequent therapeutic interventions done by the medics there. But it appears to be thoracic-wise. It appears to be a centralized mass. The heart is not observable directly under the sternum. It appears to be an overgrowth almost of connective tissue underneath the sternum. The heart then lies behind the large lung mass, which had become anastomosed together. The area below that, the abdomen, has a massively shortened colon. There is a smaller stomach, duodenum, jejunum ileum, the small intestine, in a much shortened colon, and so these statements about them giving off fecal droppings like birds are completely spurious and nonsense. They defecate liquid, and so they regularly require hydration because of the amount of liquid defecation. So they're sipping water all the time. And they require hydration just as we do. Moving up to down to the feet, there's feet and arms. There's 4 toes and 4 fingers. The smaller appendage had been naturally selected out over evolutionary time, the small digits. Yes. And there was a spread out of the hands to accommodate surface area. And that's all through adaptive radiation, normal evolutionary pressure. So I suspect that should we not go through that catastrophic timeline, that it may happen anyway. There's been speculation about that in the hard science. Exactly. The eyes are an interesting, the interesting feature on the J-rod. They are very large. They contain a nictitating type membrane over the top of the eye. That is the darker portion. However, they're not born that way. There is a social convention that they have adopted where the nictitating membranes are actually surgically added after birth. They're not born that way. And given the fact that we don't follow Lamarckian, I don't even want to go there, but anyway.
Do you have any knowledge of what their eyes are like when they're born?
Yes. They have very large pupils, very large pupillary capacity because of the pressures of living in a low light area, and their requirements. However, they have a tapetum lucidum type apparatus at the back of their eyes where their retina would be, and that acts very much like a cat's eyes would for concentration, a mirrored surface for concentration of light, and the nictitating type membrane, which is added to them after birth, actually further acts to reflect light back, so it concentrates light in a low light environment.
Well, what I was wondering was, you mentioned they have a large a large pupil. What about the iris?
The iris is nearly white. It's albino.
It's an albino iris.
Right. So if you peel the nictitating membrane off, the sclera is present. However, it is almost vestigial. It's pushed toward the back of the globe. Okay. And that was just a natural innovation from the evolution of living in a low light, yet necessity for concentrating that low light to a perceivable amount type environment. It's present, but it's just not observable.
So with the nictitating covering and the tapetum in the back, it's almost like a double mirror.
Exactly. And so what they do is it's a social convention again. Yes, it assists them in the concentration of the light, but it's giving the eyes of their predecessors to them. It's actually handed down within numerical groups, and then those numerical groups, by sheer numbers and sheer organization, are also within families, because they don't want, utilitarian-wise, to regard families as being a unit. Well, the general body plan, while the same on a gross anatomical level, there are peculiarities to
to the anatomy if one goes to a little closer inspection. Of course, the bones are reduced in size. If we're talking about a 52, for instance, the bones are markedly reduced in size, also in density. And it's known that without the correct supplements, and I think even with them, that there's a loss of bone density from our astronauts. So it can give an indication, I think, why there would be a loss of bone density simply because of the traveling in space or hyperspace, how they actually move from one point to another. Now, I want to talk for a moment about the differences between the 45s and the 52s relative to their skin. The 45s, while they have the early indications of the three basic conditions that we're going to discuss, the IgA, MGUS condition, it's called a CIDP-like condition, the Cockayne syndrome, and then the polyneuropathy, the peripheral polyneuropathy. But the skin of the 45s does appear very scaly. Now, by the time you reach the 52s, that scaliness is not so apparent, as there are infections underneath the paps of skin, which are their hyperkeratotic skin, that reveal the problem. And I'm going to get to what the problem is in a moment. Under these scaly-like patches are groups of glands. They're compound tubuloacinar type glands, which produce antifreeze proteins and antifreeze glycoproteins. They are associated with sudoriferous glands, which are sweat glands, and also sebaceous glands. But when they're operating properly, there's no distension. So the 45s appear very reptilian-like, and I think that's probably the origin of the so-called reptilians.
Okay. Now, your skin, the texture of your skin, would you describe it as like a shark type of a skin?
Very leathery.
Leathery, kind of, not scaly as we would assume scales, but
right, but under the pressure of an abduction scenario, which I have some personal accounting, you could easily misinterpret one of them as appearing like a lizard-like creature very easily.